My name's Lauren Whitaker. And the night I walked into my 20-year high school reunion, wearing a plain navy dress and no makeup, I was reminded, within 5 minutes, that I had never really been somebody to them. Not back then. Not now. The valet barely looked at me. I mumbled a quiet thank you, tucked my clutch under my arm, and walked through the grand double doors of Aspen Crest Resort. The chandelier in the lobby sparkled like something from Versailles, gaudy, overdone, and loud enough to whisper, "You don't belong here." Laughter echoed from the main hall. Glasses clinked. Someone let out a dramatic "Oh my God, you look exactly the same," before I even reached the concierge desk. That's when she handed me a name tag. Lauren Whitaker, printed in bland serif font. No title. No honorific. No wait, it had Chloe written all over it. I still wore my West Point ring. But it stayed hidden under my sleeve. Just like I'd planned, the main ballroom looked like it had been designed for a Netflix wedding special. Long tables draped in ivory linen. Crystal centerpieces shaped like blooming trees. A 6-tier cake that shimmered on a pedestal like it was meant for royalty. Up front, a big screen played a slideshow. Prom night. Debate club. Spirit week. The DC class trip. Chloe, my younger sister, was in almost every single photo. I showed up in maybe 3. Chloe Whitaker was already on stage. Bathed in spotlight, wearing a scarlet sheath dress that screamed power. She gripped the mic like she was born with it. Her voice floated across the room with polished charm. And after 15 years at the Department of Justice, she said, flipping her hair like she was on C-SPAN, "I've just been appointed Deputy Director for Western Cyber Oversight." Applause thundered. Laughter followed as she added, "But I'll never forget where it started. Right here. At Jefferson High." She paused for effect, then smiled with just the right amount of condescension. "And of course, I have to thank my sister, who's here tonight, for always being uniquely herself." A few people chuckled. Not sure if it was meant as praise or sarcasm. But that was Chloe's gift, turning a compliment into a dagger and making it look like a bouquet. I didn't flinch. I found my seat at table 14, way in the back, near the buffet trays. The kind of table people sneak away to when they want to leave early without being seen. The front tables had gold foil place cards with names like Dr. Hardin, CEO Wagner, and Senator Kim. Mine was next to a shrimp cocktail that had clearly been picked over already. From across the room, I spotted Jason McNeil, tall, smug, not a single wrinkle out of place. He strutted over like we were in some 90s rom-com. Well, he grinned, swirling a drink in his hand. Lauren Whitaker. Still stationed in the desert, or pushing paper in Topeka these days? "Nice to see you too, Jason," I replied, keeping my voice even. "Just kidding," he chuckled. "Didn't you go pre-law back in college? What happened?" Before I could answer, a woman in pearls leaned toward her friend and whispered, just loud enough for me to hear, "Didn't she drop out of law school?" Shame. She had so much potential. Melissa Choi caught my eye from across the room. She gave me a small, unsure smile. I returned it. Not pity. Not support. Something in between. Probably both. Dinner came and went. Prime rib, scalloped potatoes, wine that wasn't worth the pour. Chloe made her rounds. Offering hugs like a senator on re-election night. "Oh, Lauren," she said, flashing those photo-ready teeth. "You made it. I almost didn't recognize you in that. Navy vintage. It's just a dress." "Well, you always were practical." She tilted her head like she was studying an art piece she couldn't decide whether to buy or donate. "We should catch up sometime. I'm sure you've got stories." "Only the quiet ones," I said. She smirked, not missing a beat. Jason reappeared, this time with 2 more classmates in tow. One woman, tan with platinum nails and a pale blue suit, squinted at me. "Wait. Weren't you in the Army?" "That's right," someone else added. "She left sophomore year to enlist." A man behind them let out a low chuckle. "You were in the Army? What, like admin? Or a mess hall sergeant?" Heads turned. Some laughed. Jason chuckled. Chloe said nothing. I took a sip of water. My hand trembled slightly. But I held the glass steady. The air in the room felt thicker. Like the pressure had changed. But I didn't let it pull me under. I stood without a word. Adjusted the sleeve over my wrist, the one hiding my West Point ring. Then I looked each of them in the eye, one by one, with the kind of calm you only earn after spending 20 years in briefing rooms and bunkers where mistakes get people killed. I offered the faintest of smiles, something like that. And then I walked to the balcony. My encrypted phone buzzed silently inside my clutch. I ignored it. They saw a nobody in a dress from a discount rack. They didn't know that under that dress, under a military coat they'd never seen, I'd once briefed NATO leaders. I'd sat across from generals and whispered intel that shaped entire missions. But none of that mattered tonight, not here. Not to them. Outside, the wind curled around the edges of the balcony. Like it was trying to eavesdrop, I stood still for a while. Breathing in the cool air. Staring out at the gold-tinged trees swaying above the resort golf course. The lights bled across the grass like the whole place had been dipped in Instagram filters. But up here, away from the spotlight and speeches, it was finally quiet, and quiet is rare in my world. I didn't plan to go back inside. Not right away. But then the screen behind the ballroom stage started playing the senior slideshow again. Cheerleading championships, yearbook camp, DC trip, Chloe's face at every turn. I used to think my silence kept me safe. But sometimes silence is just an invitation for other people to fill in the blanks. I finally stepped back in, quiet as ever. The tables had shifted into cocktail hour clusters. Laughter came easier now. People were a few drinks in, looser, louder. Melissa stood near the bar, nursing a glass of wine, her gaze drifting. That was painful, she murmured when I joined her. Which part? I asked. All of it, she said. Then she paused and added. You look better than all of them, by the way. I doubt they'd agree. Doesn't matter, she replied. Truth doesn't need a majority vote. From across the room, I saw Chloe whispering something into Jason's ear. He laughed too hard, too fast. She caught me watching and didn't even flinch. She just smiled, camera ready, weaponized grace. Melissa tilted her head toward them. Didn't she used to follow you around like a shadow? She learned to outshine me instead, I said. Before she could respond, someone touched my shoulder. I turned. Mr. Harrington, my old AP history teacher. He looked thinner, more silver-haired, but those eyes hadn't dulled. Sharp as they were when he used to catch students texting under their desks before it was even called texting. Ms. Whitaker, he said warmly, like he'd been waiting just for me. I was hoping you'd come. I nodded politely. I heard you retired last year. He smiled. You wrote a paper in my class once. Asymmetric warfare. I remember it. Brilliant work. That paper. I had written it after a late-night phone call with Jason had left me in tears. The words had been angry, honest. Raw. I remember, I said softly. He leaned in, voice quieter now. Tell me. Did you ever serve in Black Lantern? My pulse didn't skip. My breath didn't catch. I'd trained for that, but still, I blinked once. I've heard of it. He gave the faintest nod. Some of us still pay attention to what matters. That moment lingered long after he left. Later, alone in my hotel room, the perfume of the reunion still clinging faintly to my skin, I locked the door, drew the blackout curtains, and exhaled. The room looked like any upscale resort room. Faux crystal lamps, cream carpet, a folded bathrobe across the bed. Unremarkable. Just the way I liked it. I unzipped the navy dress and pulled out the case hidden beneath it. A matte black hard shell with no markings, just reinforced edges and 3 biometric locks, fingerprint, retina, voice ID, Whitaker, Lauren. Clearance Delta Echo. A chime, then it opened. Inside, the soft glow of blue light illuminated the secure comms device. A data stream immediately populated, threat indicators, red zones, unresolved breaches. Project Mirage, status, active. Intercept protocol, pending, my secure line pinged, face on screen, Colonel Marcus Ellison. Eyes bloodshot. Stubble across his jaw, ma'am, he said without preamble. We've got a situation. I nodded. Merlin intercept? Compromised. Civilian echo channels picked up traffic 3 hours ago. NATO partner flagged for breach containment. They want your eyes, ASAP. Who's requesting? Joint Chiefs. Unofficially. Officially? Advisory consult. But let's not kid ourselves, this is real. He paused, they want you in DC by Monday. I stared at the map overlay. 4 red zones pulsing. A 5th just starting to flicker. I can't leave yet, I said calmly. He looked frustrated. You've got 48 hours. After that, we extract whether you're ready or not. A final ping, new message. Pentagon liaison. Subject line, standing authority update. Fulcrum protocol active. I closed the case. They called me a nobody in a cheap dress. But the Pentagon had other opinions. Out the window, Aspen Crest's resort light sparkled like a staged backdrop. But past the golf course, into the trees where the lawn ended and the shadows began, it was darker. More real. I checked the time, 47 hours left. The final reunion event was set for the next evening. A formal toast. An awards ceremony, and a special surprise from the alumni board. I knew exactly what that meant. Chloe was going to be crowned. The ballroom was packed. People now wore their fanciest dresses, suits ironed crisp. Jason sat near the front with Chloe. Melissa had chosen a seat at the edge of the crowd, near the exit. I ended up back at table 14. No one sat with me. The MC took the stage. Balding now, but still with the booming voice he'd used as prom DJ back in 2003, and now, he grinned, the moment you've been waiting for. This year's Most Distinguished Alumni Award. Drumroll, literally, and the unanimous winner. Our very own Chloe Whitaker. Applause. Whistles. Someone stood for a standing ovation. Chloe took the stage with the poise of a diplomat and the smile of a senator's daughter. I'm honored, she said, placing a manicured hand over her heart. Honestly, I'm stunned. I'm just doing my job. She paused, but I guess, over time, we see who rises. Who leads. And who simply watches from the wings. Soft laughter. I didn't blink. She went on. I want to thank my mentors, my DOJ team, and of course, my teachers, those who encouraged ambition over comfort. Who told me that serving is admirable. But leading? That's where real change happens. Applause again. Louder this time. Then Jason, wine glass raised, stood and toasted, to Chloe. Our Iron Lady. Proof that it's better to lead from the front than hide in the shadows. Unless you're peeling potatoes at some base in Nebraska. More laughter. Chloe smiled modestly, as if to say, oh stop. Melissa didn't clap. She turned toward me, biting her lip. I rose quietly, slipped through the crowd. Jason called after me, Lauren, wait, I didn't mean, but I kept walking. In the hall, I passed framed memories of homecoming games and school plays. At the edge of the vestibule, I paused. Outside, the night wrapped around me like armor, then. My phone buzzed, extraction cleared. Helipad ETA, 6 minutes. The world thought I was a background extra in Chloe's story, but that was about to change. A low rumble rolled across the sky. At first, no one noticed. Too busy talking, laughing, posing for pictures, but then the lights flickered. Outside, a dark shape emerged from the tree-line, angular, matte black, moving with terrifying precision, a military helicopter. The sound shattered the air. Wind kicked up petals and napkins and shrieks. Chloe's champagne spilled across her dress. Guests stumbled, ducked, grabbed their phones. Then it landed, the side door opened. Colonel Ellison stepped out in full dress uniform. His boots struck the gravel path like gunshots. He didn't look at anyone else, only me. He walked across the lawn, unhurried. stopped 3 feet away, and saluted. "Lieutenant General Whitaker," he said, his voice crisp and clear. "The Pentagon requires your presence. Immediate briefing." Gasps, a phone dropped. Jason stood, jaw slack. Chloe blinked, stunned. Melissa whispered, "Oh my God, Lauren." Ellison extended a sealed black folder. I took it. Without a word, I turned toward the crowd, this time not shrinking from the spotlight, but walking through it, for the first time that night. I felt exactly where I belonged. As the helicopter's rotors began to slow, the crowd froze in stunned disbelief. Even the air felt suspended, like the whole night had taken a sharp breath and refused to exhale. Colonel Ellison's voice still echoed in the air, "Lieutenant General Whitaker. The Pentagon requires your presence." People stared. Jason stood there, slack-jawed, still holding his wine glass like it might explain something. Chloe. Chloe looked like someone had pulled the rug out from under her narrative. Melissa stepped toward me from the crowd, her hands trembling. "Lauren." I had no idea. "I wasn't hiding," I said calmly. "I was serving." A ripple went through the crowd, first whispers, then clicks of phones. Then stunned applause. Confused, hesitant, but growing, Jason pushed forward, stumbling a little. "Wait, Lauren, I didn't know. I thought you dropped out. Of West Point. Of law school. I thought you." I turned to him. "That's the thing, Jason. You never tried to find out." Then Chloe's voice cut through the stillness like a blade dipped in honey. "Wait. Wait. Did he just say General?" She took a wobbly step forward, barefoot now, one heel missing, her carefully curated composure unraveling. "You're in the military?" She stammered, "I thought you were peeling potatoes in Nebraska." I looked her in the eyes. "I thought you were listening." Ellison gave a subtle nod toward the helicopter. "Ma'am. ETA, 1 minute." I turned to Melissa. Her expression had shifted, from awe to something deeper. "Understanding, you really are the fulcrum," she whispered. I smiled faintly. Sometimes silence is a blade. As I walked toward the helicopter, Jason called out again, desperate now, "Lauren, please. Can we just talk?" I didn't look back. "You had 20 years. The wind from the rotors whipped around us, lifting napkins and hair and assumptions into the air. I climbed aboard, flashbulbs popped. Guests stood frozen. Chloe stared up at me, eyes wide, her dress stained with spilled champagne, her phone still recording. The moment I lifted off the lawn, I knew the internet had already lit up. By the time I touched down in D.C., my inbox was on fire. News clips, podcasts, debates, memes. Some called me a fraud. Some called me a hero. Others said it had to be fake. An actress in costume. Deep state theater, inside the Pentagon's classified skiff, everything felt colder. Tighter. More real. Colonel Ellison walked beside me, debriefing as we passed through corridors of humming servers and sealed doors. "Baltic surge came through a shell account 2 hours ago," he said. "They tried to bury it, but we flagged it." He handed me a secure tablet. The screen displayed maps, timelines, encrypted hashtags, threat clusters. In the center, Project Mirage, intercept compromised. At the end of the hall, General Monroe stood waiting. Stiff posture. Ribbons covering his chest like battle scars. "Whitaker," he said, not wasting a second. "You good?" I nodded. "I'm focused." "Then let's cut to it. Someone's weaponizing your name. Not just gossip. Not just curiosity. It's a vector now. Civilian disinformation's gone live." I raised an eyebrow. "Who?" Monroe tapped the screen, a waveform loaded, podcast title, "My Sister the Myth." Host, Chloe Whitaker. I didn't blink. "She released it less than 12 hours after your extraction," Monroe said. Framed it as a conversation about military narcissism. Claimed you used rank as a mask. Said your Pentagon presence was more PR than patriotism. He looked at me, steady. "It's going viral. Reddit's all over it. TikTok edits. Hashtags trending. Hashtag sister in shadows. Hashtag general or PR. I exhaled slowly. Sir, I'd prefer not to engage. You don't have a choice, he said. She gave them a narrative. If we don't respond, someone else will, and it won't be the truth. I nodded once. Back at my desk, I ignored the flood of media requests. Anderson Cooper. The Atlantic. Even a late-night show that wanted me to read mean tweets in uniform, below that. Worse, the threats, the accusations, the conspiracy threads. One video had a slow-mo clip of me boarding the helicopter. Caption: Deep State cosplay. The Pentagon's disinformation tracker flagged my name as an active civilian target. Risk level: 45. Origin: a pseudo-news outlet that uploaded Chloe's podcast and labeled it a truth bomb. She hadn't just released a podcast, she'd fed me to the wolves, then. A ping. Personal message. Voice note. Sender: Melissa. I pressed play. Her voice came fast. Hushed. Lauren, you need to hear this. I just talked to Jason. He told me something. About Chloe. Something she deleted years ago. And I think it's connected to all of this. You need to know. I stared at the screen. I used to think silence would shield me, but sometimes silence gives liars too much room. Later that night, Jason showed up at the Pentagon. He looked nervous. Like someone walking into a confession booth they'd avoided for 20 years. She came to me right after you enlisted, he began. Chloe. She said you wanted your name taken off the alumni honors list. I frowned. Why would I want that? He shrugged, guilt spreading across his face. She said you didn't want the attention. Said you wanted to disappear. She even forwarded an email to the school board asking them to remove your nomination. I stepped back, my voice flat. You believed her? She was persuasive, he whispered. And back then? I thought she was protecting you. I turned to the file cabinet, one hand gripping the edge to keep my rage steady. She didn't just keep me out of yearbooks, Jason, I said, voice low. She erased me. He looked away. A knock. Melissa entered, holding a folder like it was sacred. I found it, she said. Your Medal of Honor nomination file. From 2018. My breath caught. I thought the board never submitted it. They didn't, she said. But not because of red tape. She laid the folder open. Top page, subject, Medal of Honor submission, Lieutenant General Lauren Whitaker, sender, Chloe Whitaker, DOJ, note, General Whitaker has expressed a strong desire for anonymity. Please do not pursue further recognition without her direct consent. My chest tightened. I never wrote that. I know, Melissa said. But at the time, Chloe was your emergency contact. She had access. She told the committee you'd withdrawn your consent. Jason looked stunned. She didn't just erase your name, he said. She erased your legacy. A silence stretched, then a soft buzz from Jason's phone. He checked it, his face paled. She's not done, he said. She's organizing the alumni board. She's calling it a restoration vote. I narrowed my eyes. Restoration of what? She says she's protecting the alumni brand from confusing narratives. She's trying to block your nomination retroactively. I stood still. She's rewriting the past, I whispered. Jason met my eyes. But you're still here. I nodded slowly, and I still remember. Because being forgotten is one thing, but being rewritten, that's war. The auditorium still smelled like lemon polish and old carpet, nostalgic, reverent, a little too clean. Chairs lined in perfect rows. Ribbons on every one. Gold seals bearing the Jefferson High crest. I stood in the back, arms crossed, my military blazer buttoned over a soft cream blouse. No medals. No rank on display. I wasn't invited, didn't need to be. Chloe was already on stage, mid-speech. She wore an ivory pantsuit, pearls gleaming, smile practiced. If I didn't know better, I'd say she looked presidential. To me, she said, voice smooth, success isn't about medals or mystique. It's about showing up. Every single day. It's about building something people can trust. Polite applause. A few camera phones flicked on. Students in uniforms. Alumni in tailored suits. Media rows near the back, scribbling notes. Chloe continued, my sister once said she preferred to serve in silence. But silence, she added, letting the word hang, can be misleading. Silence lets myths grow in the cracks of truth. That murmur you hear in a room? It was rising. Wait, someone whispered. Isn't her sister the general? Chloe didn't look at me. But her smile widened slightly, like she'd hit the crescendo of a song only she could hear. Real leadership, she said, doesn't come from titles. It comes from showing up when it matters. Applause. Louder this time, Melissa appeared at my side and pressed a manila folder into my hands. Her voice was steady. It's all in there, she whispered. DoD acknowledgement. Your nomination. That photo. I nodded. Chloe wrapped her speech with a line about legacy built on clarity. That's when I moved, one step. Then another. My boots echoed against the aisle carpet, chairs creaked. Heads turned, whispers grew legs. I didn't look at anyone, not even Chloe. I climbed the stairs to the stage and stopped beside the podium, the alumni board chair. A man in his 70s with a trembling voice and silver tie, looked stunned. Lieutenant General Whitaker, he murmured. 3 minutes, I said quietly. That's all I need. He nodded. Chloe stepped back slowly, her smile tight now. Eyes unreadable. I turned to the crowd, hundreds of eyes. Some blinking. Some wide. Some narrowed in disbelief. I didn't rush. I didn't clear my throat. I didn't ask for their attention, I already had it. I opened the folder. Pulled out a single photo, me. In full dress uniform. Standing at NATO command, shoulder to shoulder with General Aubrey Klein, the day I received a classified commendation that never made the news. I held it up, not shaking. Not smiling, just steady. The room stilled like someone had cut the sound. Then, I lowered it. My name is Lauren Whitaker, I said, voice calm. Class of 2003. First chair in orchestra. Founder of the International Relations Club. Voted most likely to be a professor. Soft laughter, uncertain, then growing. That one didn't age well, I added, more laughter. Tension, breaking. I served because I believed in a country that didn't always believe in me. I didn't wear a name badge for praise. I wore one because it reminded me what I stood for. I pulled out the redacted documents, commendation letters, the Medal of Honor nomination Melissa had uncovered. These are pieces of a life lived beyond this room. Not glamorous. Not loud. But real. I didn't look at Chloe, I looked at the students in the aisles. The ones who hadn't picked a path yet. I'm not here to name names, I said. Because this isn't about anyone else's story. It's about mine. And about the people like me, those who serve quietly. Who show up not for attention, but because if they don't, someone else might pay the price. The camera shutters clicked again. I'm not here for applause, I continued. I'm here to remind you, truth is louder than applause. And far harder to silence. I paused, then scanned the room slowly. You can erase names from programs. From rosters. Even from history books. But not from memory. And not from what we built in the dark. I stepped back, no dramatic music, no tears, just that deep hush. The one that means people finally heard you. I left the stage, and the alumni board chair stood up, voice shaking. It's time, he said, we correct a mistake. He turned to the plaque behind the podium, the one listing distinguished alumni, and added, General Whitaker, your name belongs on our wall. The call came later that week. White House liaison. Polished. Formal. I was being awarded the Medal of Honor. The ceremony? South Lawn. Full military protocol. Embargoed until announcement. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just breathed. Melissa burst into my office 20 minutes later, earbuds still in, waving her phone. Lauren, the stories everywhere. The Post, The Times, even a tech podcast with 3 million subscribers. They're calling you the silent general. I raised an eyebrow. Catchy. She held up her phone. Listen to this pull quote. She carried the burden of command without ever asking for a podium. Now the country insists she stand on one. I finally smiled. A small one. Strange, I said. Feels like someone just turned on the sun. Melissa's grin softened. You earned this. Before I could answer, my secure line lit up. Presidential liaison. He appeared on screen, dressed like a press briefing come to life. General Whitaker, he said. The president would also like to discuss an advisory role in civilian-military integration. Formal offer coming this week. I nodded. Understood. Thank you. When the call ended, I didn't go to the podium. I didn't call the press. I went outside, walked alone, down a side path behind the Pentagon where the stars still peek through the DC haze. No cameras, no salutes, just gravel under boots and breath in my chest. I sat on a bench under a low tree and stared at the sky. So this, I whispered, is what being seen feels like. The South Lawn ceremony wasn't grand, it was deliberate. It was precise. Everything felt like it had been engineered for reverence. Rows of chairs stood in military symmetry beneath a white canopy. The flags fluttered softly in the breeze. The orchestra played, but kept it quiet, almost hesitant, like even the instruments knew not to overwhelm the moment. I stood at attention, dress blues. Ribbons lined across my chest. Gloves crisp white. Spine locked in steel. I didn't fidget. I didn't smile. I just waited. The president approached the podium with practiced ease. He was a man known for his calm. Today, that calm was reverent. Today, he said, we honor not just a soldier, but a sentinel. He paused, scanning the crowd, a woman who spent 20 years walking through the darkest corners of global conflict, never seeking fame, never demanding recognition, only asking to serve. Lauren Whitaker chose silence. But now, it's time we speak her name aloud. The applause came, not thunderous, not performative, but grounded. Earnest, he stepped toward me, lifted the blue ribbon from a velvet case, and placed it around my neck. The Medal of Honor gleamed under the afternoon sun, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to feel it. Not pride. Not vindication, stillness. Somewhere in the third row, I saw Chloe. She sat between Melissa and a Navy Rear Admiral. No pearls. No designer suit. Just a navy blouse, blazer, and her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white. She clapped. No performance. Just presence. As I descended the stage, a cadet stood at the bottom step. She couldn't have been more than 19. Straight spine. Chin lifted. Thank you, ma'am, she said, her voice steady as she saluted. I returned it with a soft nod. Back at the podium, I was handed the mic again. This time, from my own words, I used to believe silence was strength. I began, voice even. That to serve meant to disappear. I looked up briefly, but I've learned something else. Pause, we don't serve for applause. But sometimes, it's good to know we were never truly invisible. The applause came again. Softer. Reflective. I stepped down. The president shook my hand and leaned in, voice just for me. You're not done yet, General. They offered me an office in the West Wing. I chose a classroom at Fort Liberty instead. No mahogany desk. No velvet chairs. Just beige walls, creaky floors, and a chalkboard that still squeaked. But it felt right. 30 cadets sat with eyes forward, notebooks open. Some wore uniforms. Some didn't. But they all listened. The nameplate on the podium read, Lieutenant General Lauren Whitaker, Ret, guest lecturer. I didn't care for the title. I wasn't here for status, I was here to teach. Today's seminar, I began. Ethical leadership in asymmetric environments. A few eyebrows rose. One cadet raised her hand. What do you mean by that, ma'am? I smiled. Leading when no one's watching. Making calls when there's no playbook. Staying principled in the gray areas. She nodded slowly. Another cadet, Freckles, maybe 20, asked, "What do you do when the system works against you?" I met her gaze. "You lead anyway," I said. "And you document everything." A soft wave of laughter broke out. But they got it. They understood. These young women and men weren't here to wear the uniform for decoration. They were here for the weight. The responsibility. The real thing. Midway through the session, a soft knock came at the back. I turned. Chloe. She stepped inside with hesitation, her heels quiet, a navy blazer over dark jeans. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, emotionally. The way someone looks after they stop pretending they're winning. In her hands, a small black camera bag. "Hope I'm not interrupting," she said. "You're on campus?" "I'm working on a docu-series," she explained. "Women in Command." I thought. Maybe I should start where I should have started years ago. I raised an eyebrow. "That's a long way from passive-aggressive podcasts." She shrugged. "People change." Before I could answer, Melissa stepped through the door behind her. She held up a book mock-up. Smiling like a kid who'd just gotten away with something big. Title, "Leading in Silence, Lessons from the Field," 2 names on the cover, Lauren Whitaker. "Melissa Chan, the publisher's on board," she said. "They want co-authors." I looked between the two of them. Chloe. Melissa, 2 parts of my past that had once pulled me in opposite directions, now meeting in the middle. I nodded. "Let's write it right." Back inside, the cadets had gathered around the front. One of them, a tall girl from Kentucky, held a poster board. It was covered in Sharpie drawings and stick figures in uniform. At the center, a hand-drawn version of me, half in shadow, half in sunlight, at the top. In looping handwriting, "Our General." My chest tightened. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Thank you," I said, voice low. Then I looked out across the classroom. "Command," I said, "isn't about shouting. It's about showing up, especially when it's hardest to." They nodded. Some scribbled it down. Others just let it sink in. The session ended, and I returned to my desk. My encrypted tablet blinked red. I opened it. Subject, request, Ghost Viper Recon Team, clearance, black. Threat level, high. I stared at the screen. The weight in my chest didn't feel like fear, it felt like purpose. I hadn't disappeared, I was simply doing my job. Where no one could see me. The hallway smelled of varnish and printer ink, new, but somehow familiar. The kind of place where time hangs still, quietly watching. It was called the Hall of Legacy, just a long corridor on Jefferson High's East Wing. No grand architecture. No velvet ropes. Just a row of plaques, bronze nameplates, framed black and white portraits, and now. My name was on the wall. I stood at the far end, hands clasped behind my back, dress uniform crisp, polished shoes unmoving. No ceremony. No cameras. Just quiet. Chloe stepped up to the podium. She was holding a single page, neatly folded, slightly trembling. Her blazer was buttoned, her expression unreadable. When she looked up, her voice was steady. "She served without needing to be seen," she said. "But today, we choose to see her." Her eyes met mine for just a breath, not for her rank. Not for the medals. But for what she stood for when no one was watching. She stepped down. I gave her the smallest of nods. She returned it. Melissa was nearby too, in a navy dress and flats, thumbing the corner of our book's manuscript like it was a sacred object. She'd flown in the night before, claimed she wanted to keep things simple, and then surprised me with a quote from the book now printed in every program: "Leadership doesn't echo in applause. It echoes in choices." A staff member removed the cover over the new plaque. My name was there, Lauren Whitaker, class of 2003, integrity in silence, no rank. No flair. Just that, the crowd murmured. Students snapped photos. Some faculty members bowed their heads respectfully. In the corner, 5 cadets stood in uniform, arms at their sides, proud and still. Melissa came to stand beside me. "How do you feel?" she asked. I took a deep breath. Not a dramatic one. Just full. It's not about being remembered, I said quietly. It's about making sure the right things are. She smiled. From behind us, a voice whispered, "Young, earnest, she's the reason I applied." I turned just slightly. One of the cadets, barely 19, was nudging her friend. Eyes locked on me with the kind of wonder I remembered having once, too. The kind that makes you believe in something bigger. I didn't say anything, didn't need to. I stepped back from the plaque and let the students take their photos. Let the alumni shake their heads in belated respect. Let the faculty glance at Chloe, then at me, then back at the plaque like trying to piece together what they'd missed. Then I walked out. No stage, no anthem, just polished floors and the echo of my boots fading into meaning. Later that evening, Melissa and I sat at a small cafe just outside town. A simple wooden table. A pot of tea between us. No reporters. No cadets. Just the two of us and the kind of quiet that doesn't need to be filled. "You ready for what comes next?" she asked. I sipped my tea. "That depends on what next decides to be." She laughed lightly. "Well, the book's gone to print. You've got 2 speaking invitations from the Naval Academy and 1 from Georgetown. Also, a podcast." I raised an eyebrow. "Whose?" "Yours, if you want it." I tilted my head, amused. Thought podcasts were Chloe's thing. Melissa smiled. "Maybe it's time you reclaim the mic." I thought about it for a moment. The idea of speaking openly. Not in briefing rooms. Not under NDAs. Just words, truth, without encryption. "I'll think about it." She nodded. That night, back in my quarters, I found an envelope slipped under my door. No stamp, no return address, just my name, written in careful cursive. Inside was a card. Thick stock. No design, 4 words in the center. "Can we talk?" Below that, a time and a place. Sunday. 10:30 a.m., Mason Brule Cafe, downtown Seattle. No flourish. No manipulation, just an ask. When Sunday came, the cafe was quiet. The windows fogged from the rain. The espresso machine hummed behind the counter like background static in a memory. I was early. Chloe arrived 10 minutes late. No makeup. Hair pulled into a braid. She wore jeans and a navy pea coat. Her eyes were rimmed with fatigue, not from lack of sleep. From finally running out of reasons to keep performing. She sat across from me, didn't ask. Just Saturday. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she reached into her coat and slid a small velvet box across the table. I opened it. Inside, an old photo. Faded, creased at the corners. 2 little girls in matching Halloween camouflage costumes. Both saluting. One with a giant grin. The other, me, staring dead serious at the camera. "You kept this," I said quietly. "I almost threw it away 6 times, she replied. But I couldn't. I looked at her, and for the first time in 2 decades. I saw her, not the deputy director. Not the stage performer. Just Chloe, the girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms and whisper, "Don't leave first." She took a slow breath. "I spent years trying to outrun your shadow," she said. "Turns out, I built that shadow myself." I didn't interrupt. I thought if I got louder, shinier, I could catch up, she continued. "But no matter how far I climbed, you were always there. Quiet. Constant. And I hated how much I resented it. I hated how much I admired it." Her hands trembled slightly around her cup. She didn't lift it. Just held it. "I didn't want you to disappear," she whispered. "I just didn't know how to exist next to you." I reached across the table, laid my hand gently over hers. She flinched, then relaxed. "Then maybe now," I said softly, "we stop running." She nodded, and for once, there was no need to script the ending. Back at Fort Liberty, I stood in front of the classroom one final time before my next assignment. Not a resignation. Just a rotation. Command isn't about being loud, I told the cadets. It's about being lasting. I turned to the whiteboard and wrote one word in clean black marker: legacy. Behind me, the class was quiet, listening, and somewhere, deep in the Pentagon's encrypted inbox, a new message blinked: request, Cyber Viper activation. Threat confirmed. Target moving. My eyes scanned the coordinates, not fear. Not fatigue, just clarity, because when you spend your life in the silence, you learn to hear everything. They once said I'd never amount to anything. They saw a quiet girl in a plain dress and called it invisible, but I had led missions no one could name. Delivered orders that changed the shape of a continent. Carried the weight of ghosts and the burden of secrets, and now, finally, my name was no longer missing. It was etched into bronze, into books, into memory. The girl they dismissed, she lit the path for a generation. Sometimes, the strongest voices don't echo through applause. They're heard in the quiet choices made when no one's watching. In a world obsessed with visibility, remember this: real legacy isn't built through attention, it's built through intention. You don't have to shout to lead. You just have to keep showing up.